What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Woody Sports Talk. Here, right after the second round in the NBA playoffs finished, just watched the Pacers blow out the Knicks, and then just watched a really tight matchup between the Timberwolves and the Nuggets. Two very different games, that's for sure. The first game I thought was going to be a lot closer. Thought the Knicks might pull it out, being at home, but boy was I wrong. The Pacers absolutely blew out the Knicks in Game 7 to have a matchup against the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals. And then the Timberwolves come back from 20 down away from home in Denver against the Nuggets to match up with Dallas in the conference finals on the West Side. Two different matchups, in my opinion, and we'll dive into both of them right now. First of all, if it's a different background behind me, you're noticing if you've watched any of my other videos, it's because I just moved and I just got an actual job in the sports broadcasting industry for a local TV station. So I'm going to try and do as many videos as I can. I have not a lot of time anymore just because the hours are long and the days are hard. And one, I'm just tired. And two, it's just tough to make a video and edit it the little time that I'm home after getting home from work or doing whatever else. So I'm going to try and do videos just like this one for the NBA. I'm going to try and do an NHL one. We'll see if that happens. And I'll just try and do as many of these videos as possible. But it is a little tougher on me now with a job and doing this, but just trying to talk as much sports as possible. And this allows me to talk national sports, which is obviously something that's interesting. But just so you guys know, if, like, it's been 3 weeks since I last uploaded the video, couldn't preview the PGA Championship in Valhalla, just I was moving and everything, getting situated. So it's definitely a different time now for me, and just don't have a lot of time to just sit down and record videos. I'll do my best, and we'll see what happens. But anyway, now into the NBA playoffs. So we'll start on the East side of things. The Celtics, the 1 seed, kind of cruising their way into the Eastern Conference Finals, just like everyone thought they would. Playing the Indiana Pacers, a team people had an eye out for at the start of the playoffs. A lot of people picked them to beat the Bucks with Giannis injured, Dame, not fitting in well there in Milwaukee at that time. And then just the way that the Pacers played against the Bucks, Doc Rivers not having the best of seasons with the Bucks. So a lot of people picked the Pacers to win that series, and they did. Competitive series, and then went up against the Knicks. Got past the Knicks in 7 games. Like I said, tonight, this is just a couple hours after that game finished, just after the Nuggets game finished. But the Pacers, with Tyrese Halliburton, moving on into the Eastern Conference Finals, and it's a matchup which interests me because it's a team that has been the best all year long in the Celtics against a team, a 6 seed in the Pacers, who are pretty young, don't really have a lot of playoff experience at all, and a team kind of just going with the flow and happened to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. This series, though, I think is a little lopsided for the Pacers. I think they maybe got a little bit lucky in the Knicks series with everyone going down injured, and on the Knicks side that was. And I just think the Celtics might be a little bit too much. The Celtics, best team all year long. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, 2 of the better players in the game, kind of up against Tyrese Halliburton and Pascal Siakam for the Pacers, along with Miles Turner, who is an inside presence, which I think will be key in this series, especially if Kristaps Porzingis isn't back for the Celtics, which is a huge thing that I think will maybe not determine this series, but definitely if and once the Celtics make it to the finals against either team in the West, Porzingis is going to need to come back. As for the Celtics, though, I do think they'll win this series, and kind of just depends on what they want to do. They have a game every single series where they just decide not to show up. The first series, it was Game 2 against the Heat. Last series against the Cavs. The Cavs played really well 2 games out of the series, and the Celtics showed up one of those games, and they won. The other game, they just decided not to show up again, and the Cavs won the game. So it kind of just depends on which Celtics team shows up, and if Joe Mazzulla can, have them fully motivated and fully focused for every single game. Because if they are, then they should really be able to sweep the Pacers. But I do think it'll go at least 5, just because I think the Pacers will win 1 game in Indiana and then go back to Boston, and I think the Celtics close it out in 5 games. But Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Derek White, Pritchard off the bench. They just have so much depth and talent at every single position, really. And, I mean, Al Horford can play in the center, can play the 4 spot. They have size, athleticism, shooting, defense, length. And I just don't really see where the Pacers match up with that, even with their high-scoring offense, which they need to keep up. They're going to have to score a ton of points. Their offense cannot go cold like it did in a couple of games against the Knicks. Going to have to stay hot the whole time. And then that full-court press defense that they play, we'll see how much that affects the Celtics. I don't really know, but it's kind of a difficult matchup for the Pacers, in my opinion, for sure. I think the Celtics take it in 5 games and move into the finals where they should be. Been the best team all year long. The inexperience, though, in winning big playoff games and the lack of, I'm not going to call it seriousness because obviously they're taking it serious, but I guess their ability to take games off or to just waver in their level of play is something which I think might catch up to them in the NBA Finals against whichever team comes out of the West, which is what we'll get into right now. Moving over into the West, Dallas versus Minnesota, 2 teams which many people probably didn't think they were going to win their last series in the semifinals. Minnesota coming back and winning Game 7 tonight, earlier before this video, against Denver in Denver, down 20 at halftime. It looked like Denver might just be able to coast home with it. It was going to be competitive, but it looked like Jokic and Jamal Murray might just keep it at a certain distance the whole game. Anthony Edwards at halftime had 4 or 6 points and didn't really look good for the Timberwolves, but he turned it on. Their defense stepped it up in the second half, which is one of their best qualities, I think, is just how tight they get on defense and how well they can force turnovers, which really caused the Nuggets problems in that series. And for them to come back in Game 7 and make it to the conference finals after going up 2-0 and then losing 3 straight, winning Game 6, winning Game 7, you just got to think that they're going to come into the series full of confidence and be looking to move on to the finals against whichever team comes out of the East, of course. For Dallas, Kyrie and Luka carrying the load for the Mavericks. A back-and-forth series against OKC, the number 1 seed in the West. That series was interesting as well, went back and forth a little bit, but it just seemed like the very inexperienced OKC Thunder kind of caught up with them. SGA played well, Chet played well most of the time, but just didn't get enough depth help and role player help that I think hurt them in that series, and that's why the Mavs prevailed. They just came through when it mattered most, and when you have the experience with Kyrie on the team and then a Luka who always delivers, that just kind of propelled the Mavericks into this conference finals against the Timberwolves. But I think this series could go 7, could be 7 games in Minnesota. Kind of just depends on how well Luka and Kyrie can bring it and how well and how much of the load they can carry for Dallas. I'll call it in 6. I'll say that the Timberwolves win in 6 games. Anthony Edwards, from my alma mater, both UGA people there, so he's my dog, and I think him versus Kyrie will be a great matchup. Hopefully they can go one-on-one a couple times because that would just be electric. And then, Luka doing his own thing on the other side with the Timberwolves got the bigs down low with Rudy Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns, which I think those two might be the difference in the series. There's not a lot of huge players down low for the Mavericks, and I think that the Timberwolves, just with their couple players with experience, aka Gobert and Cat, along with just a few other guys that have been in the league a while, you have to favor them in the sense that some of them have at least been in the playoffs longer and they have some sort of experience in the big moments, while in the Mavericks, they did go to the conference finals, I think it was 2 years ago, so some of those guys definitely have some experience there as well, mainly Kyrie, who won a championship in Cleveland and everything, and then Luka's going to step to the plate. But I think just the level of talent that Minnesota has and their willingness to defend is going to be the difference in the series. I'll take Minnesota in 6 games to face the Celtics in the NBA championship. What a series this could be. This could definitely go 7. The Celtics versus Minnesota, 2 young teams, 2 teams where their star players are young, but they have some depth that's a bit older. They have surrounding role players and cast players that have some experience. It's one of those series where the key players will perform, but it kind of depends on the other role players to see how well that team will do. For example, on the Celtics, how well is Al Horford going to play in the finals? How well is Derek White going to play in the finals? How well will Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown show up? Are they going to take a game or two off? That happened with them a couple seasons ago when they got to the finals and then couldn't win it. So with the Celtics, they've been in this position before, expected to be in it again, and they are. In my opinion, I think they will be. How will they step up to the plate? With Minnesota, none of these guys have been to the finals, I don't think. And it's their first time in this big of a moment. Can Ant step up? Can Rudy Gobert be the defensive player of the year that he was elected to be, that he was voted as? And then can Cat, really take a leap and, win something big in his career? He's got a supporting cast now. That team is good. They play good defense. And it's one of those series where it's a toss-up, in my opinion. It really is. 7 games. And I think it's going to be one of those times where the Celtics, where they should win it, I think they're the best overall team. But I'm going to take the Timberwolves. I'm going to take Anthony Edwards, Karl-Anthony Towns, Rudy Gobert, and the rest of the crew to beat Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Kristaps Porzingis. And that's a big one because if he's fully healthy, you never know. The Celtics could pull it out. But I think his kind of iffy healthness, if that's a word, don't think it really is, but I just made it up. His health and how well can Celtics bigs deal with Minnesota's bigs. That's going to be a big part of the series. Who can shoot the three the best, of course. And it kind of just depends on how well the Celtics offense can go against that Minnesota defense that caused havoc on Denver and I think will cause havoc on Dallas as well. Big-time matchup, big-time players, but I'll take Minnesota in 7 games, win it in Boston, which is crazy. But I think in Boston, Minnesota take it home. Anthony Edwards is the MVP of the series, and he will perform well 5 out of the 7 games, I'll call it. Average probably 30 points, 25 to 30 points in the series, and Minnesota takes home the NBA championship. Wild season for them, ups and downs, perennially at the top of the West, and then at the end of the season at the top of the NBA. Well, we'll see if those predictions come true or not. I have no idea. I do think that definitely Minnesota and the Celtics will win in the conference finals. I don't know how like a Dallas Pacers NBA playoffs or NBA final series would go. I just don't know how much viewership that would get at all. But it's interesting. I think it'll be 2 really good series. Celtics win it in 5 because the Pacers just don't have the skill to keep up with the Celtics. And then Minnesota and Dallas, Minnesota in 6, and then Minnesota in 7 in a huge series, a great series. Celtics, Minnesota, great talent, big names, big stars, and Minnesota takes it home in 7 games, NBA champions. Thanks for watching. I'll try and post another video soon. Don't know when I'm going to be able to do that. Like I said, I'm a bit busy now, but appreciate y'all's support, and have a good one.